Welcome to St. Charles, Illinois, our first video ever in St. Charles. It's been well overdue on this channel for me to do a video in St. Charles, considering all the family history that I have in this town. I've discussed it many of times. I've had a lot of family that's lived out here over the years. Definitely one piece of history here in St. Charles, which I have mentioned several times, and that, of course, is my history with Charlestowne Mall. A mall that has been closed since 2017. Now, we definitely had malls that were closer to us. Stratford Square Mall, Harlem Irving Plaza, even Brickyard for a while. But this is the mall that I most often went to as a child, because I had a lot of cousins that lived out here, so often during the weekends, sometimes weekly, I'd come out here, meet with my cousins. My mom would usually be the ones driving out here, meeting with my cousins, some of my cousins' kids, riding that carousel, hanging out in the food court. Yeah, I spent a significant amount of time here in St. Charles, my childhood. And this mall has been closed since 2017. It's kind of been a hot area for trespassing and the urbex explorers, the mall explorers. Folks have been in this mall quite a bit since 2017. It shouldn't be in there, and the police are very, very active in this area. So we're not going to be doing a lot of exploring, but I haven't really driven by this mall since it closed down. Really, the only thing that remains is the theater there, the Cinema 18. It's very similar to Stratford. A lot of the parking lot is fenced off. This is the one area I'm always going to remember. And this is the back entrance to the food court upstairs. And that carousel. Yep, it is boarded off. Stairs are boarded off. You can kind of see the upstairs food court a little bit though still. that is about as much of the inside of the mall that I think we're going to be able to see today. Right there. Oh, the skylight up there. Carousel was right about there. That sort of circular window area is. Used to be an arcade over there. And the food court went all around. Yeah, but the rest of this back area is blocked off. But yeah, this usually was the entrance we went in. And again, I do apologize because I don't even want to get out of the car because, like I said, this has been such a hot area for urbex exploration that it wouldn't take much. I'm surprised there's not a security guard following me right now, to be completely honest with you. And there's already so many videos of the inside of this mall being online. There's nothing I couldn't show you that's already on dozens of different YouTube videos at this point, but I wanted to show you this today because since being closed since 2017, they finally got approval for some sort of, again, I believe, mixed-use development in this area. They have the very typical mixed use, and all the other malls are doing something. Finally got approved, and I'm actually really surprised that nothing's been destroyed yet. I thought that this mall was already starting to get demoed like Spring Hill, but apparently not yet, and I'm kind of happy about that because I can show you this mall, at least what areas I can access. The theater is still open, I believe, and I think there's a Von Maur store. I don't know if that's still open. And now once I get back into the office and I can get to my computer and Wikipedia, I can give you a little bit more of the history of this mall. But like I can tell you, it's been closed since 2017. And outside the Urbex Explorers, the only thing that's been done with this mall since is a kind of infamous now Toyota commercial was filmed inside this mall. Pretty cool. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description below. But yeah, Toyota filmed commercial inside of the abandoned Charlestowne Mall. Not too long after it closed. It was before 2020. But yeah, they got this thing pretty well boarded up. Not going to be too much we can see inside. Definitely need to take a little closer look at that, though. Yeah, something has definitely been improved here. I saw a sign for it briefly as I was coming in, but can't remember what it was called now. That is North Avenue, Illinois State Route 64, right there. This is the Von Maur entrance. That's definitely still open. This was a pretty big mall back in the day. Pretty sure Stratford was a little bit bigger, but you know, we just most often went here because this is where my family was. There was a Carson Perry Scott over there. Of course, that company's been gone for a while now, so it's boarded up too. But yeah, this was a really, really cool mall. Now, there are several malls that are very similar style as this because I forgot what company owned this mall, but they made a lot of malls in a similar style and format to this, and some malls I believe that do still exist today. And yeah, we're gonna get back to the fenced area here again. I haven't seen any security vehicles yet, but again, I just don't want to mess around here too much. There's actually a video of one of the kind of more popular, infamous, if you will, Chicagoland area urbex explorers that actually got arrested. They're, of course, doing our exploration in this place, and the St. Charles police caught up with them, and it's kind of funny. They tried to run from the mall, and the police found them in one of the surrounding neighborhoods here. It was a whole kind of wild thing, but they are the professional urbex explorers, if you want to call it that. So they make enough money from their videos, I'm sure, to pay for their bail or whatever, or the fines. But not an area I ever want to go down, and I think, yeah, this area is all fenced off around here, but we will finish the loop if we can. Actually, the loop might be blocked off here. Yeah, because we gotta go to the right here, so yeah, that may be all you will be able to see. Yeah, we can't go to the back of the Charlestowne Mall any farther. So there you go, Charlestowne Mall, St. Charles, Illinois. All right, let's go over the history of Charlestown Mall. Now, I'm not going to go over everything. I'm just kind of reading this off the Wikipedia page, so give you a quick little 2-minute summary. Charlestown Mall was a shopping mall located in St. Charles, Illinois, and it was the second mall to serve the area after St. Charles Mall. We'll go over that mall in a little bit. It was built by Wilmorite Properties. Charlestown Mall opened for business in August 1991. The original anchors were Kohl's, JCPenney, Sears, and Carson's, then known as Carson Pirie Scott. Regal Cinemas added a movie theater in 1999, which would later be sold to Classic Cinemas. JCPenney closed in 2000 and was converted in 2001 to Von Maur, the only remaining anchor. Charlestown Mall changed ownership multiple times. There were numerous plans to renovate the mall, but nothing became of it. The Sears closed in 2011. Kohl's closed in 2016. And of course, the entire mall would close in 2017. All right, now for the fun part. Let's show you some pictures. Now, there are a ton of pictures of Charlestown Mall online. Numerous of these I got from a very cool blog write-up on Charlestown Mall, and I just don't want to take all of their pictures and show them here, so I'm just going to show you a few of them, some special ones to me, and some really cool ones. Starting with that awesome back entrance. And you can see on the second floor the carousel. Yeah, this is where I spent most of my time at Charlestown Mall, on that upper floor food court with the carousel. Some very good memories there. This second photo is of the carousel inside, looking out towards those windows. And I think this is possibly right after they had closed, or pretty close to when the mall had closed. Now, this next photo is really awesome. Yeah, this photo was taken, I believe, on the day that Charlestown Mall had closed. Now, most folks, except for me, knew when the mall was closing. So there was a bunch of people that went here on the last week, on the last day, and took very cool photos. Unfortunately, I had no clue that the mall had closed until well after it closed, but this is one of many really cool photos that folks took right as it closed. You can see the photo was taken at night, so it just adds to the ambience right there. Very empty, very abandoned, very liminal. And this was not some urbex explorer that shouldn't have been in here. This was legitimately open. This was open at the time, and people were just walking through and taking these pictures. Really cool. Of course, that's the glass elevator there. I think this was taken from the food court area, so it would be kind of towards the back of this picture. Very neat. And this photo really brings back some feels for me. Yeah, this is another picture of the food court. You can see one of the restaurants on the left, all the tables and chairs, and the carousel. This was when everything was still open. You can see the date stamp from 2012. Man, I spent so much time here. So many good memories, and everyone's got their favorite childhood mall. I've heard so many of your stories in the comments of my mall videos. This photo, this is my childhood. This is my mall history right here in this one picture. That was not the only mall in St. Charles. If you are of a certain age, you may remember another mall in St. Charles. One a little bit west of here, off of Randall Road. A much smaller mall, and one that actually ended up dying because of the opening of the much bigger Charlestown Mall. Yeah, I don't know when the Charlestown Mall will end up getting demoed. Yeah, that's been a whole thing. Many years, everyone's been wondering, like, what are you going to do with this property? And so, yeah, once we get back to my office, I can kind of go over the history of Charlestown Mall with you. But also, want to go over another mall. Like I said, a smaller mall. But closed in 1995. Not much longer after the Charlestown Mall opened was the St. Charles Mall. Yeah, there used to be a mall called St. Charles Mall at a corner of Randall Road and Illinois State Route 38. Still in St. Charles, I believe, but also very close to Geneva. And once we get back to the office, I can go over the history of that mall as well. Like I said, it was definitely a much, much smaller mall. It definitely had that sort of old school 80s, 90s mall vibe to it. But unfortunately, it has since been long demoed. Now, it was basically empty land for quite a while now, but they have developed some stuff on the property. But really, the only remaining piece of the St. Charles Mall is the Jewel Osco. It was sort of an external attachment to the mall, and the Jewel Osco is still there, but nothing else, unfortunately. But if I cover the Charlestown Mall, I feel like I have to cover the St. Charles Mall as well. Yes, I believe I have been inside the St. Charles Mall, but I remember that mall about as much as I do the North Park Mall at Villa Park, so very, very fuzzy memories. I wasn't in the mall a lot. I don't think that I definitely went there again with family, but like I said, it closed in 1995, so I was pretty young. I definitely remember the mall physically being there, even after it closed, because this was the route we would take from Northlake to my aunt's house in Maple Park. We would take Illinois State Route 64 all the way into St. Charles, make a left on Randall Road, and then make a right on Illinois State Route 38. So I'd always see the mall when we would head out to Maple Park. And this is downtown St. Charles, Illinois. We're about ready to cross the Fox River yet again. And I definitely will do a video here downtown St. Charles at some point. We never walk through this area that much with my family for whatever reason. Here is the Hotel Baker. This is definitely infamous for being a haunted hotel. It looks like a wonderful little area though. Definitely want to walk it. There's some nice parks as well in this area. Of course, the Fox River Trail goes through downtown St. Charles, obviously. And this is Illinois State Route 31. Fortunately, I don't really have time today to do it, so that's going to have to be a separate video. But I definitely have pretty good feelings when I drive through St. Charles. A lot of memories. A lot of fun times with my cousins, both here in St. Charles and in Maple Park. lived out here. I had family that worked out here. A lot of my family actually worked at the McDonald's that's just down the road, or I assume it's still here. We'll see as we pass by that. You know, in their like teenage years and stuff like that, a lot of them worked at this one particular McDonald's. My mom and I definitely came out this way many times just to visit my cousins when they were working. I would assume it's still here, but we'll find out in a minute. Shouldn't be too much farther though. We're getting close to Randall Road. I mean, maybe it's not here. Did it actually? Oh, nope, it's here. It looks a lot different. It didn't look like this. It used to look like your standard sort of McDonald's from our childhood. So, but that's the one that my cousins worked at. Numerous of them. Alright, we're getting ready to hit Randall Road here. Don't know if we're going to get the light on. Yes, we will. And now we can check out St. Charles Mall. But unfortunately, we're really not going to see much of the mall, but we will kind of drive through the area that the mall was at. I definitely had to do a lot of research on this, but we will be able to see the new development that is now going on within the property. All right, right along here at Prairie Street and Randall Road. But this is it. And that is the Jewel Oscar over there, which used to be connected to St. Charles Mall. This Jewel Oscar definitely has been here forever. And then right back here, what is now being developed here is an apartment complex. So I believe this little sort of field area here and everything to the right. So yeah, retail / mixed use for sale / lease right here. This is what is being developed on the property that once was St. Charles Mall. So yeah, I mean, nothing too interesting here, but yeah, all these apartments is what once upon a time was St. Charles Mall. Yeah, unfortunately, we are not going to find any remnants of the St. Charles Mall now. And it's been an empty field for decades at this point. Look like very nice apartments. I'm sure very, very expensive apartments. But it looks like they're going to be doing some retail development here too now. I just see mainly apartments. There's a clubhouse, but I don't know exactly where the retail is going to be going, but there's also even a little roundabout here. Yeah, I'm sure the apartments are not cheap. Yeah, I don't see the retail yet, but this is the mixed use. At least they're more progressing with their mixed use compared to some other malls in the area. I definitely have some old photos though. I found a few. There's not much online of St. Charles Mall. Definitely more photos of Charlestowne Mall for sure online, but there's not a lot, but I did find a few, and I will show you guys those when we do get back to the office. This mall definitely existed. Just not a lot of people are going to remember it, I don't think. This thing was closed by 1995. So unless you grew up in the area. I was still a teenager when this mall closed down, so it's not like I was vlogging or anything like that. And now let's go over the much smaller and much less known St. Charles Mall. St. Charles Mall opened in 1980 with over 48 stores, including 2 anchor stores. The anchors were Kmart and Joseph Spies Company. And quick little side note, I don't really remember this too well from my childhood. Maybe I was just kind of young, but as I've been documenting these malls, looking into their history, I've been really shocked at like how many malls had a Kmart attached to it. Like, this has just blown me away. Especially the smaller malls, Crystal Point and Crystal Lake, a great example as well. But a lot of these small malls back then had Kmart's attached, and I just don't really remember it that well. Every Kmart that I remember was a standalone store, like in Franklin Park, Illinois. But seeing these old pictures of malls and having the Kmart's attached to it, it looks really awesome, but I just don't really remember it that well. The mall closed in 1995, a very interesting date. Now it's about 4 years after Charlestown opened up. A little history, the mall started construction in late 1970s, finished construction in 1980. Wikipedia page also talks a little bit about the interior, the foliage, seating, colorful decor throughout the mall. So yeah, very 80s mall vibe. I wish I remembered it better. But yeah, just the type of decor and atmosphere that I absolutely love. Definitely makes me think of that north portion, a golf mill. And like we said, it had 48 stores, so definitely not a big mall. Joseph Spies Company, which I know nothing about that department store. I mean, I've kind of heard of it here and there, but I know nothing about it. Other than that, was the first anchor to open before the mall opened in 1979. Kmart opened the following year. And then there was a 3-screen S&S Theater, which opened in December 1980, later to be sold to Cineplex Odeon in 1986. Some notable stores that were located at St. Charles Mall include Radio Shack, D-E-B, General Nutrition Center, Kinney Shoes, Camelot Music, Payless Shoe Source, and B. Dalton Booksellers. On the final day of the mall staying open, only 1 tenant remained and 2 anchor stores. The Joseph Spies Company closed in 1995 due to bankruptcy. And, I mean, all things considered, 1995 wasn't that long ago, but for some reason I still have no remembrance of that department store. Kmart closed the same year for unknown reason, and the St. Charles Mall closed in 1995. The only thing that remained was the Cineplex Odeon Theater, which would close in 2002. And like I mentioned, that Jewel Osco was on the property and it remains today. So the demolition of St. Charles Mall began in 2002. It took about a month and a half to complete. And Wikipedia says again, Jewel Osco was the only out parcel to be spared from the demolition. Similar to Charlestown Mall, St. Charles Mall had numerous redevelopment plans over the years. None of that came to be though, and like I said, it's been pretty much an empty field for most of the years. And then in 2017, the city of St. Charles approved plans for a new residential development called Prairie Center, and that is what we drove through today. All right, now the pictures of St. Charles Mall. Yeah, these were a little more challenging to find, and there might be a few more out there, but this is about all I've been able to find so far. All right, first picture is one of the outside entrances of St. Charles Mall. And I just love those old cars, the old school Illinois license plates. Really cool. Yeah, it definitely looks like it was a snowy day out. But just the look of that mall, yeah, it just, man, it gives me sort of vibes of Spring Hill, of that north entrance, of Golf Mill. Just so cool. But wait, it gets better. Here's the outside entrance to Kmart. Again, check out those little cars, the old Illinois license plates. Very nice. Now, I found two pictures of different entrances for the Joseph Spiess Company, but I believe they're both from St. Charles. Now, the only thing with this one, though, is I don't know with that yellow license plate if that's actually Illinois. So one of these two could be a different Joseph Spiess Company, but these both came up when I searched St. Charles Mall. So one of these two, either this one or this one, is from St. Charles Mall. Again, I wish I knew a little bit more about this department store. And here is a picture of the theater at St. Charles Mall. 3 movies. And check out the picture of Colonial Cafe. Oh, that is a classic, man. That is a classic restaurant in St. Charles area. And still open, although not by this location. The one actually I've gone to with my family is right off of Route 64, but apparently there used to be one right by the St. Charles Mall. Here is a map. Yeah, our first picture of a map of the St. Charles Mall. And yeah, you can tell it is small. You got Kmart on the left and Joseph Spiess on the right, Prairie Street to the north, Route 38 to the south, Randall Road to the west. And yeah, unfortunately, I have not been able to really figure out exactly on this property where the mall was located. But the best I could tell, where we sort of pulled out of the property onto Randall Road on our way out, would have been kind of where the Kmart was, and where we would have pulled in to the property when we first arrived of Prairie Street would be somewhere on the back of this mall. It's honestly the best I can do with it. I've not been able to figure out an exact spot, but it is on that property, I can guarantee you that. And of all my pictures, this is probably my favorite. Yep, this is the one and only picture I've been able to find of the inside of St. Charles Mall. And it's just so beautiful. I don't know where to start. All the browns, all the tans, the signs for the company. I don't know if that's neon or not. Oh, it's just so beautiful. The lighting, the sort of wood paneling kind of looking thing on the ceiling and on the walls towards the right there. Oh, it's just so amazing. Those tannish looking seats, and then of course the center court area there with all the fake trees and plants and stuff. I don't necessarily see a fountain, but it's just, oh my god, just absolutely amazing. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. And like I said, I might have been here once or twice, but sadly I don't remember it that well. And to finish this video, I just hope that those of you out there who are a little bit on the younger side, the Gen Z, the Gen Alphas, I hope you can really appreciate this picture and what it meant to us old folks. And just, I hope you guys can really appreciate the nostalgia. This is a very special piece of history, There you go. That's the history of the Charlestown Mall and the St. Charles Mall in St. Charles, Illinois. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for watching.